Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Limerick Junior Soccer Focus with myself, Adrian Finnin, and Aidan Ryan once again this evening. As we look ahead and look back, actually, at the Munster Junior games, we'll have a quick recap of the Munster Junior games from last week involving the Limerick clubs. And also, we look forward to what is going to be a very busy week for Limerick Premier Division clubs, 3 Limerick Premier Division clubs, as they take on Strand Celtic, Athenry and Castlefin Celtic in the FAI Junior Cup. So we will go on to that in greater detail as the show goes on. Aidan, we'll start off obviously with the Munster Junior Cup. Fair to say, Aidan, there was only a couple of casualties, Limerick casualties. You had Limerick Desmond League side, Rathkeil. You had Fairview B going out of the competition. But also in turn, you had Regional, Charleville, Ballynanty and Nina all going through as well, and Fairview A as well on the Saturday night. So as you know, these ties go, it was fairly successful to get 5 out of 7 Limerick sides through.
Yeah, absolutely, Adrian. It was a good weekend for Limerick teams in the Munster Junior Cup. A lot of the games we expected, we kind of flagged the wins last week, so they were kind of expected. Obviously disappointing to see Fairview B go out. I actually went to that game, Adrian, on Sunday, and really good game, Adrian. A lot of good football. I enjoyed the match. I thought Fairview B gave a very good account of themselves. Game of two halves, really. Tramore well on top in the first half and played the game at their pace and dictated the tempo of us, and had a forward in the shape of Sam Shepherd, and he was an absolute handful in the first half. He scored 2. He certainly could have scored another, maybe 1 or 2. Kevin Curran will be very disappointed with the defending for the first goal, which was very soft. The second goal, ironically, resulted from Fairview B's only chance of the first half, which Gavin Buckley, the Tramore goalie, saved. Broke straight away, and Sam Shepherd did such great power and pace and scored a very good second goal. Second half, thought Fairview B were really good, Adrian. Closed the game up a bit. They harried and hassled Tramore, didn't let him dictate the game, and set the tempo themselves. And some very good second half performances from Zach Sheehan, Ben O'Shaughnessy, I thought showed some nice touches, Leon Johnson, and they got the goal back to Tyreek Leamy. And if it wasn't for a brilliant tackle by Jack Deegan, the centre half of Tramore, right at the death, that game could have gone to extra time, Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose after watching them, Aidan, as well, I know that Fairview are in the top half of the table in Premier A, Fairview B, and you know it is very tight division. I know Newport have had a scintillating start, but you know from second onwards to maybe 7th, it's very tight in terms of promotion. What would you think of the chances of Fairview going on a run now and you know going? Obviously, we know they can't get promoted, but you know making a title challenge, because in fairness they were 3rd last season as well, so there's a consistency there from Fairview B in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, and he's a very young side there, Adrian. He's a couple of experienced players, obviously, there with Craig Madigan and Bobby Tears on the bench. Probably didn't manage the first half very well. Adrian was the main problem, and of course the early goal they conceded after 3 or 4 minutes, and you're on the back foot. Then you're playing a team with the experience of playing in the Waterford Premier League. In terms of their own league, listen, they've been scoring goals for fun in the division, and when you've guys capable of scoring goals, and that team looks like they can score goals from anywhere in the pitch. You showed in the second half, there's some good chances in the second half, Adrian. They were coming from players all over the pitch. That certainly gives you a good chance of climbing the division. They'll be disappointed with some of the defending in the first half, but I have to say in the second half, I thought they were excellent. No, they were helped by the fact Tramore took off Sam Shepherd, the aforementioned Sam Shepherd, 15 minutes into the second half, which I thought was a mistake because he was a handful in the first half. Maybe he had an injury. But I would expect Kevin Curran to get that team up challenging by the end of the season, certainly on the evidence of the second half on Sunday. And
as you mentioned already, we suspected that Fairview A, Regional, United and Nina would all come through their home ties, Aidan, as well. I suppose, being a neutral onlooker, and we've discussed this before, you see Fairview winning 7-0, Nina win 4-1, and obviously Regional beat Blarney 3-0 as well. We've discussed maybe the difference in quality between, you know, Munster Senior League sides in Cork, obviously, and junior soccer in Cork in general not being as strong anymore. I suppose you'd be a little disappointed with the level of competition, I suppose, in those games if you were ever neutral.
Yeah, it's a far cry from, say, 10 or 12 years ago, Adrian, when the Cork AUL, you know, they had some powerhouse teams down there that were always a threat, not only in the Munster Junior, but in the FAI, and they were getting to latter stages like last 32 and last 16, and a couple of them to the last 8. But that has certainly changed, and depending on, in terms of the Munster Senior League, and players are going there first now. And even players, Adrian, who might be good enough for senior football in the Munster Senior League are going to the junior divisions in the Munster Senior League. And there seems to be a train of thought now that league is run a little bit better and a lot more professional than the Cork AUL and than the Cork AUL is, which is a disappointment, obviously, in terms of looking to the standard of it. And as you've flagged, the results show that. I mean, Fairview A beaten Village, who are from the Cork AUL Premier 7-0, and by all accounts could have won by more.
I suppose the one thing I don't want to do is take credit away from the Limerick teams either, Aidan, because, you know, you can only beat what's in front of you, and, you know, all those 3 teams did a professional job, obviously, as well.
Yeah, and some quality goals. I saw some of the Fairview A goals. A lot of quality in them. Good movement, good fishing. Nina's victory over Dunmanway. I'm led to believe that there was a Barcelona TikTok goal scored, Adrian, for their second, where we had 20 and 25 passes before they scored, which is
yes, that's right.
Which I'm hearing great things about. So there's loads of toffee going out to Nina again this week, out to Brickfield. Delighted with that. And then you had Regional with a very good victory over Blarney. I see David Cowper back, Owen Duff back in the team.
Yeah.
Kieran O'Connell chipping in with a penalty. And of course, a really good victory for Ballynanty, Adrian.
That was huge, wasn't it, Aidan? Because that was a real banana skin.
Yeah, massive victory to go out there, keep a clean sheet in very tough conditions by all accounts against a team that are absolutely flying at the top of the Desmond League. Great to see them winning 3-0. Couple of experienced players chipping in with goals. We were talking, Adrian Hurley telling us about he wanting to get an input to the team. Well, he certainly did on Sunday. I believe he got in on the end of a set piece, which is great. Adrian Power and Absy scoring the other 2. Fantastic victory out there.
Absolutely. And of course, last but not least, Charleville got over the line, a 3-2 victory in their game as well. As we said, you know, they'll obviously be hurting maybe from the loss of Keane McNamara for the rest of the season, who went into Fairview. But, you know, that's a real confidence boosting victory if they needed it at all.
Yeah, it was the most impressive victory of the weekend for me, Adrian. I had a worry about the game. I think I said it to you last week. 2 Mile Boris are going very, very well in the Tipperary Premier League. They're assured of safety there for this season, which is probably unusual for them. As I said, they're normally a yo-yo club. And for Charleville to go there without one of their top players and secure a victory like that. And they led 2-0 and 3-1, which means they were on the front foot. And that's a good sign of a team going away from home and producing that. And maybe Shane Dillon, who scored 2 goals, I think, during the match, Adrian, maybe Shane will take up the mantra there and be the main man. If he wasn't the main man already, maybe he'll come to the fore a bit more now and take on the responsibility and help that team for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we move on, Aidan, from the provincial Munster Junior Cup to the national FAI Junior Cup, which, you know, has thrown up some, you know, big ties, but none bigger than Athenry hosting Fairview Rangers in the competition. There's recent history between those sides in both the junior and senior cups. But the junior cup tie being in the semi-final, where Fairview Rangers during a COVID hit year, but the year Fairview Rangers won the trophy, defeating Athenry on penalties at the Fair Green and in a day full of tough conditions for both sides. Looking at Athenry, Aidan, they're joint top in the league in the Galway Premier Division with Salthill. Devin, obviously, there's 8 wins from 10 games with just 1 defeat as well. So, I mean, if you're just looking at it, you know, on the cold face of things, you know, Fairview couldn't have asked for a tougher task on Sunday.
Yeah, massive task going away from home, although the trip is short. As you say, Athenry going really well, beat Ringmahon in the last round. Now, they struggled a bit with Ringmahon, Adrian, 2-2. I think they led 1-0, 2-1 down, had to come back in the end and won a penalties. So that was a struggle from, but at the same time showed a bit of character to come through the match. Have been going really well in the league. I think won in the Connacht Junior Cup last weekend. Beat, I think it was Kiltamar. I think they beat them 4-1. They would have been expected to win that. It's hard to know what Athenry will get, Adrian. They lost a big league game earlier on the season, but they've bounced back from that. They lost to Salthill Devon, didn't they? 5-1 or 5-0. And they've come back from that and gone on a run of games. And they have a lot of quality there. I know some of the players. Colin McDonovan, actually an experienced player, is just back in the team. He's been out for a while with injury. We're talking about Adam Leggett, Cole Connolly, Ryan O'Shaughnessy, really good players. And a lot happening up there at the moment. They're building a new pitch as well, a new 4G pitch, or 5G pitch. And they've just announced Stephen Lally, who you'd be familiar with from League of Ireland. Yeah. He's just been announced there as kind of a director of coaching and player development. And I think that's very significant for them because Stephen Lally is a fantastic coach and a fantastic manager and has worked at all levels of the game. So a lot of good things happening with them. So a big task for Fairview. But look, Fairview are a serial team in this in terms of winning FAIs and going far in FAIs. So Fairview will hold no fear going up there, Adrian, as you know yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, look, it goes back to the old mantra of anything can happen on the day, and because you can't, there's no real difference between the form of either team, really. I suppose you looked at that Salthill beating Athenry, as you said earlier in the season, 5-0, which would have hurt them at the time. But then again, you look at Fairview Rangers, who we were out there when they lost 4-1 to Ballynanty, and that would have hurt them. But, both teams reacted really well to that. So, it's very hard to call because both sides are going into it in very equal form.
Yeah, and Fairview's form has been really good the last 2 weeks. Look, we obviously had that blip before Christmas. Okay, but since then, they beat Regional away in the league 3-0. I was at that game. Very, very impressive, Adrian. Really impressive the way they looked after the game. Man managed it well. And they were missing a few at the back. They had a makeshift defence. You Stephen Bradley and Scott Cowan playing centre half. You the new young lad, Blake Curran from Ashling at left full.
Blake Curran, yeah.
So they had a few players missing out of there and they still came through the game, no problem. And last week's win, 7-0 at home, confidence must be great. Now, I believe Conor Ellis took an injury, but you still had Jack Gara.
4 goals for Jack Gara as well.
Yeah, listen, fantastic centre forward. Will give you everything he's got. Has a lot of attributes, some of them different to Conor Ellis, obviously. I don't think he runs the channels as much as Conor Ellis would. But his hold-up play, his link play is really good, and he knows how to finish. He's going to get a quota of goals for Fairview this season. So I think they're going up there instead. And from midfield up, they're a huge threat, Adrian. You've seen them play yourself. They're a massive threat from midfield up with Rainsford, Coughlin, Ara, possibly Ellis, Shane Duggan, Stephen Bradley.
And Keane McNamara now as well, as we said.
Yeah, Keane McNamara. Yeah, absolutely massive threat, Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be interesting to see how that game goes, and we'll be watching that keenly as well. But another game which will take place is Regional United going to Sligo to face Strand Celtic. And now, in fairness to Regional, they've always been known maybe a bit of a Spurs team, as I've referred to them in the past. They maybe don't have the consistency in the league, but they often get to, maybe your last 16s of FAI Junior Cups. They seem to win these type of games that they're expected to away from home. Maybe expected being a strong word, but if you look at Strand Celtic, they've got 3 wins from 9 league games this year in their own Premier Division, 4 defeats and 2 draws. So 2 draws as well. So if you're looking at it quality-wise, Sligo Leitrim League, and then you've got the Sligo League, and then you've got the Limerick League, you'd be looking at it, expecting maybe that Regional, will be confident going up there that they can come back as progressed. Yeah,
I'd be expecting a win up there, Adrian. The game might be a little bit tougher now than the last one they had. I think it was away to Coleraine, wasn't it? Coleraine from the CCSL. Yeah. So you'd expect this one to be a little bit tougher. Strand are normally kind of a mid-table team in the Sligo Leitrim League. Nearly every year, they're normally no danger of going down, but at the same time, don't seem to have enough to make the breakthrough into the top 3 or 4. Regional will be going to a good setup up there, Adrian. lovely facilities. Have a 200, 300 seater stand. Good setup. I've seen it before. They beat Clodagh Rangers in the last round from the North Tip League. Very comfortable win, 6-0. And as you say, look, kind of reasonably consistent in the league without tearing it up. They're still in, they're out of the Connacht Junior Cup, Adrian, which they'll be disappointed with. I think they lost to Castlereagh Celtic in the last round on penalties. They'll give Regional a test, but you'd expect Regional to come through. And as I said, good to see Owen Duff back in the team. David Cowper's back fit. Should be going up with a near full strength squad. So you would expect a victory there, and hopefully they'll come through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we spoke about, obviously, Sean Russell maybe tinkered with the team in the league game against Fairview. Obviously, before the Cup, a few of those players came back into the team. They gave him probably the perfect response if they were dropped, but not that we know if they were dropped or rested, Aidan, but it was the perfect response if they were anyway.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you're keeping a clean sheet. You're getting a few goals. Look, you're coming to these big cup games now, Adrian. You need your best 11 on the pitch, if at all possible. Now, as I said before last week, we don't know what's going on in the background with squads and that, with fellas working, and fellas could be out of form, fellas might be able to train as much, but you must try and get everything, you must do everything you can to get your top 11 for these big games. And this is a big game now. This is a big game, make no mistake about it, and Strand will be up for this as well. And no cup games are given, Adrian. You flagged it yourself earlier on. Nothing's a given. You never say never. You've got to go and be professional, do your job, and hopefully have the best team out there to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose Ballynanty Rovers, red hot favourites, it's fair to say, going into their tie against Castlefin Celtic. And that game will actually take place at 12 o'clock. I know a lot of people will be expecting the FAI game to be at 2 o'clock. But I assume, as we were speaking about during the week, it may be due to the fact that, being from Donegal area, they want to give time for Castlefin to get home on a Sunday. So, that game will take place in LIT at 12 o'clock. The reason I say red hot favourites, obviously, is because Ballynanty have been in very good form since Christmas as well. Aidan, they got a very good victory over Coona in the league. A really good win, as we know, against Rathkeil as well in the Munster Junior Cup. So they'll be full of confidence going into it. And obviously, Castlefin, second bottom in the Donegal Premier, struggling look as a result. Only one victory from 6 so far this season. It's fair to say that a lot of Limerick soccer folk will be expecting Ballynanty to fly the flag for Limerick into the next round.
Yeah. Something, they're going in as red hot favourites, which they won't like, and they won't like me. They won't like either, Adrian. As you said, their form is fantastic. I've noticed the last few games, a lot of guys getting game time, so people will be up to speed. The players will be up to speed. But something now, Adrian, this is a little banana skin, even though they're favourites for it, because Castlefin, even though they're second bottom of the league, they've only played 6 games. They're 3 or 4 games behind everybody else in that league. And they've only lost 2 out of the 6. They've drawn the other 3.
Draw specialists.
Yeah, but they beat also Kilmacrin in the last league game 3-1. Now, they're second, or joint top in the Donegal League, I think, or second in the Donegal League. They won 3-1. They beat Killarney in the last round 2-1. Might have come from a goal down in that, I think, and got their winner in the last minute. So they have a little bit about them, Adrian. They beat Glengad in the round before that, and Glengad are a name that come out of the area in Donegal regularly the last 4 or 5 years. I think Pike actually played them a few years ago.
That's right.
So, not a game to be taken for granted. Again, got to be professional about it. This crowd will have something about them. They have a guy plays up front and on the wing called Jordan Duffy, who I've heard about, has something about him. He's nicking goals every single week for them. So they'll need to be on their toes, Balla, for this. Need to get ahead in this game. Give Castlefin nothing to fight for in this game. Give them nothing to fight for.
I know that Aidan as well, like that maybe, Ballynanty clubmen and stalwarts, I'd be open to correction on it, but there's just something in the back of my mind that feels that when Ballynanty are favourites against teams that maybe they might be expected to go through, it doesn't always work out that way for them in the past. So I know that Dave Dunphy will certainly be guarding against complacency all the week through training this week.
Yeah, well, they've an experienced management team there now, Adrian. I mean, you have Dave Dunphy, obviously, you've Ray McMahon, and you've Derek Bradish, and look, they've been about and about for a long time, so I'm quite sure they'll have the players well prepared for this game. I'm sure the sessions this week were good and informative for the team, and they must be raring to go. And look, if everyone's available, they'll have headaches trying to pick a first 11, because there's a nice strong squad there now at the moment. 16, 17 players, 18 players, all vying for 11 spots. So I'm sure they're looking forward to the fixture. I have a good feeling about they'll come through it. They just need to be a little bit guarded about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose just to turn our focus from the FAI Junior Cup onto the Lawson Cup, which also fixtures that were due to take place last week that are taking place this week in the Lawson Cup locally. You have Glenview Rovers taking on Pike Rovers, a huge clash for them. Aidan, it's been the story of many. The pitch in the Cat's Cradle. Now, this is a different pitch to the one that Manny played on with the massive hill, but it's still, a far cry from Crossagala and the facilities there. So I know many people out in Glenview will be hoping to make it as uncomfortable for Pike as possible on Sunday. Obviously, we expect Pike to come through, but look, I suppose a great occasion for Glenview to welcome him out.
Yeah, I wonder, Adrian, will the electric fence be on around the pitch? I can remember, Adrian, just a little story on that. I can remember taking a prospect team out there many moons ago. We were a Premier team, a good Premier team at the time now in the early 90s. And we went out to Glenview on that pitch. The game was blowing up a bit early. We scored a few goals, but a couple of our lads felt the force of that fence, I can tell you, when they went after the football as they went down there. So a word of warning to the Pike lads to be ready for that.
Absolutely, I know that. I know they've moved it down, as I said, from the hill, as they call it, the hill pitch. But still, as I said, it'll be a far cry in a January day. So, as I said, Glenview will be hoping to make it as uncomfortable early as they can.
Yeah, listen. You'd expect Pike to come through that game fairly comfortably, wouldn't you? And maybe a few lads get a run out that wouldn't normally be getting a run out and get a bit of game time. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know two clubs in the other two games. There's two clubs that are, I suppose, fairly close to your heart for different reasons. But obviously, at Lunkard, you're currently playing with the B team, and obviously, helping out with the training with the A squad, who do play Kilfrush in Division 1A. That's an away tie for Lunkard. Now, at Lunkard did struggle to come through Parkville, who are actually division below Kilfrush in recent weeks as well. So, they'll be under no illusions going into it at the same time, I'd imagine. And would you have had a word in that respect as well?
Very, very lucky to come through the last tie, Adrian. I'll tell you, Parkville had several opportunities to see that game through, and unfortunately for them, they didn't see it through, and they got caught in penalties. But we're very unlucky not to come through that game, Parkville. So it'll be a tough game for Keith Curley and co outside in Kilfrush. They won't be a walkover. It'll be a tough game. It's a cup game. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. And finally, there'll be an all-Premier clash with Nina against Kuna Kuna away in Nina in this one, Brickfields. Kuna, I know that the Kuna management were disappointed maybe with the manner of the first half performance when Kuna lost to Ballynanty. They conceded 3 goals in the first half, made it really hard for themselves. Obviously, this is a different perspective. It's a cup game, but there's not, even though Nina are ahead and in the top 6 in the Premier, and seem to be in decent form, seems to be a decent feel around the place. And you can tell that Kuna will be desperate maybe to give a game now to Nina and try and advance in this trophy.
Yeah, Ian Connolly and the lads will be anxious to put up a show on here. Adrian, I watched Kuna a few times, Adrian. I watched the league game against Ballymantine, the last 4-0, and I was very disappointed. But they were very unlucky as well. Outside of not playing as well as they can play, they were very unlucky with injuries and stuff that was going on in the game that just wasn't happening for them. And they need to get a full squad back. Certainly need Niles back in the centre of the defence, because he's a real leader. And any time he's played, they've done really well. So he's been a big loss to them. So they need him back in the team. And look, they'll need to harness the troops and try and go out and put up a show, certainly, and see can they nick a win. But Nina are going all right. That win last week, very good win, very comfortable win. Keeps their season going. They're in the top 6. They're going well. They're playing good football. Again, you'd have to expect Nina to come through the game, Adrian, wouldn't you? Going in current form, certainly.
Absolutely. And on a final note as well, Aidan, it's on a note of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Jackman Park, which everyone knows obviously is the headquarters of Limerick Junior football, hosts all the cup final deciders, which, you know, it's like your day out at the Aviva, it's a day out in Jackman for all junior clubs is what you'd be striving for. There's a 50th anniversary taking place. It's the February the 10th. Is when the game will take place. It's Limerick District League selection against Treaty United, who will only be a week out from their season as well, starting in the League of Ireland, should I say, when they take on Bray Wanderers. That'll be their final pre-season game. You have the Limerick District League managed by Declan Considine, Dahi O'Donoghue and Keith Curley, who obviously you'll be very familiar with from at Lunkard. They will take place. So what I believe is the case, Aidan, is that you have a Premier Division selection who will take on Treaty United in the first half. And they've also, you know, in an attempt to, we'll say, include every division in the Limerick leagues, you have a team from every division, just one team picked out of a hat from every division, and 5 from Premier A, with one player selected from each team that will take place in the second half. So it's trying to be all inclusive, but it will be a great occasion, obviously, because as we've seen, there's been plenty of improvements in Jackman Park in recent years as well, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and listen, on a personal level, I've great memories of Jackman Park down the years with the matches I've played and teams I've been involved in. Plus the fact that the games you go and see there, you know, we've great memories of it. So it's nice to see it, something happening in relation to that. What is also good to see, Adrian, is that players from the lower divisions are being recognised, and teams from the lower divisions are being recognised in the team selection in terms of the squad. So it should be a great occasion for everybody, and hopefully they'll get a decent crowd there to watch it, and it'll be something to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. A light-hearted event, I'm sure. I suppose, not speaking of light-hearted, it won't be light-hearted for you, but you were talking about memories of Jackman Park. Now, this is a fairly recent one, but I remember anyway, I can't remember the exact year, but one of my abiding memories of showing disappointment and, you know, joy in one instant was when your own Janesborough side lost on penalties to Pike in the Munster Junior final, which was packed out on the night, I remember. And I just remember your reaction. If I looked over to my left, your reaction leaning on the fence, disconsolate, and then seeing all the Pike players running out. If you could have caught that photo, I would. Now, I tell you what, I would love to have caught that photo, as it turned out.
Yeah, it was a listen. I think I said afterwards, actually, Adrian, I did an interview with you after that, and I said that Pike deserved to win the game, and they did. We didn't play particularly well in the night. I thought Pike played some very good football, especially in the first half on the night, and they won it on penalties. Now, the funny thing about cup football, as you know, and especially with finals, we could have won that game on penalties. We were in a position to go ahead there on penalties at one stage. And the minute we missed that penalty, I think I turned to Shanahan in the Mountain Super and said, that's it. We won't win it now. And consequently, look, I'm not being a know-all here, but we didn't win it. And I was very disappointed, because if you do, if you do win it on penalties, Adrian, no matter how poor you played, you'll take the victory.
Of course.
I can tell you that. You'll take the victory and you'll revel in the victory. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So I'm quite sure when you saw the look of disappointment on my face, no one likes losing a big final like that. It was a big local final outside of it being a big provincial final. And it was a great occasion. There was a massive crowd there, but it was certainly disappointing to lose it. But overall, no complaints. Pike were the better team.
I was beginning to think I was, you know, that was poor form on my part. But look, you've won enough of them anyway, so don't feel too sorry for you anyway for bringing it up. That's for sure. But anyway, as I said, hopefully we'll have plenty to celebrate this weekend. Well, premature celebrations they would be in terms of the Limerick sides. We hope that all 3 Limerick sides advance in the FAI Junior Cup, and obviously you've got some competitive games coming up in the Lawson Cup hopefully as well this weekend. You know, so my thanks once again to Aidan for joining us and giving us his analysis and insight into this week's games and last week's games, and we hope you can join us once again next week as we will recap plenty of action that will take place this week, as well as looking ahead to plenty of more action in the Limerick Junior Leagues.